Thanks for checking out Sugar Bee Apples. Today we're going to do a review and we're going to measure the sugar content of this delicious Honeycrisp hybrid. Now you can see today we have both the organic and the standard, and they're grown out in Washington State. They have a cool symbol and you can see their website here as well. I recommend checking it out. They explain the history of this variety I'm about to explain. So this was a Honeycrisp that was cross-pollinated in the 90s by grower Chuck Nystrom. And he named it B51, and then it was patented later as CN121. Now it's a bicolored apple, and it's known for being sweet, crisp, and juicy. And you can find them in stores November through January, possibly into February. So really interesting looking apple. I love Honeycrisp, so if you like Honeycrisp, you're gonna really like these ones. And I also should mention that they have these lenticels, see them? I'll zoom in for you. Now these spots, from what I've researched a little bit, is people claim that the larger these are, the sweeter the fruit. And I guess in storage, the stomatas disintegrate, so that's what is left from the little bit that I read about it. So I find that interesting, and let's see if that holds true today. So it's got a little bit more of a yellow flesh, as you can see. I bet this would make a delicious apple pie. Wow. That is a delicious apple. Crunchy, nice texture, firm. Juicy. Oh, this one is the organic one. Wow. Probably one of the best apples I've tested on our channel to date, if that says anything. Although I don't think it's the sweetest apple I've ever had. It's definitely nice, has a nice sweetness, and I think to me it's the crunch I really like the most. And you can hear it as I push it on this blade of the knife to extract some juices so we can measure the sugar content. Come on, one more drop. There we go. Wow. Very respectable for an apple, 13 4/10. That is a sweet apple. They're not cheap. I do not recall what I paid. I'm going to say $4 a pound, if I remember correctly. But they are a very, very high quality apple. And I like to eat organic when I can. Let's see if there's much of a difference between organic and standard. That one was not very good. And it didn't have those spots. The lenticels. Interesting. All right, let's see if this one tastes better. Oh yes, much better. Now they did have some bruising. I bought these at my local Sprouts, both the organic and the standard. Both had some bruised apples, but nothing too major, no rot or anything. And it didn't affect the quality or the flavor, in my opinion. I would say the organic tastes better in this comparison. So there you go, the Sugar Bee apple, wonderful bicolored apple, crisp, sweet, juicy, wonderful Honeycrisp with an unknown cross-pollination pollen source. So thank you to the bee that created this. That's hence the name Sugar Bee. Hey, this is Paul. Thanks for checking out the 2023 SUMO Citrus Review. Now, I've learned a lot about these beautiful decoupon, Chernui decopons, I should say, in the past year, and I'm excited to review these for you now. The ones on the left are store-bought, and I would assume that they've been gassed, or they typically degreen the citrus with some type of ethylene gas or a mixture of gas. So these ones have been gassed. These have been not gassed, and they're from the George's farm. Ones in the center have been out on my counter for the past week, and the ones on the right have been in the refrigerator for the past week. So I'm excited to kind of compare these and just see if there's any differences. Now, the ones that have been gassed, they tend to last longer, and there is reported no loss of flavor. Now, the exterior, you can see the prettiest ones would probably be the one that's been in the refrigerator and the one that's been store-bought. You can see I kind of like just how unique the outer rind of this one on the left looks compared to the one on the right. And this one has been on the counter for the past week. So it looks a little bit more dehydrated, I would say, just on the exterior. So I'm just gonna pick these three at random to compare today. Let's get started. Now, my favorite thing about the SUMO Citrus is how easy they are to peel. And they don't get juicy. I mean, you can keep your hands clean. They're great if you're on the road and you need a quick, healthy snack. So look at that, ready to go. Let's see how this one tastes. Definitely solid, typical SUMO citrus flavor. Now, the ones that we picked off of the trees ourselves a week ago, let's see how they compare. Possibly my favorite thing about the SUMO citrus very similar, hard to distinguish. I would say I think this one's slightly sweeter. Very close though. Now, my favorite thing about the SUMO citrus is that in the industry they call this chewing through the rag, but these membranes just sort of dissolve in your mouth. And that's what makes them so unique. Also, the fact that they're seedless and that they have a high standard before they get that SUMO citrus sticker. All right, now this one's been refrigerated for the past week. I honestly prefer to eat them cold, slightly chilled. So if you have some of these, refrigerate them, and I think you'll like them even more. Very similar profiles. They all taste great to me. So let's check the sugar content this season using this Brix refractometer. So we zero it out with distilled water. And let's try the store-bought fruit first. See how it does. You just want the juice. $14 4/10. Very respectable. Those ones that we picked off the tree. It's been sitting on the counter for the past week. $13 7/10. A little less sweet, but they weren't even supposed to be picked yet. They needed a bit more time on the plant. And let's see the ones that have been refrigerated. Probably because I think this makes sense if you think about it. As refrigeration, the least amount of moisture has been removed in the past week, followed by the one that's been off of the plant the longest is the store-bought, so it's probably lost more moisture, thus increasing the sugar content. Let's try it one more time. Let's see if this one will go above 14 again. Now, they all taste sweet in my opinion. Wow, 16 and 4/10. So definitely these beautiful Chardonnay decopans can get sweet. But honestly, despite the differences, this one's 4 points less, 4% less. I actually prefer the one that's been refrigerated the most. Absolutely delicious. So you can find these in stores for the next 2 to 3 months. Our Trader Joe's has a nice end cap with them in stock. Absolutely lovely citrus. The SUMO citrus, a Chardonnay decopan. Hands down my favorite citrus that I can buy in a store. Hey, this is Paul. Thanks for checking out Ugly Fruit. Now you can see it's a registered trademark, and that was trademarked by Cable Hall in Jamaica. And this is also known as a Jamaican Tangelo. From what I've read, it's either an accidental or a wild seedling. Now you can see why they call it the ugly fruit, because the exterior is sort of ugly. It's kind of like a orange color, but the shape of a grapefruit. Now, according to Cable Hall's website, you can see here that the original tree was a Seville orange crossed with a grapefruit, crossed with a tangerine, and over time they chose the best scions for the fruit that we have today. And just a few days ago, these were dark green when I bought them at my local Sprouts. And you can see they're weighing in at over 1 1/4 pounds, so a really nice sized fruit. Now, a lot of people in Jamaica, from what I've read, or some people in Jamaica, they keep them in the refrigerator. So I have this one that's been refrigerated and this one that has not been. And what's interesting about this is that the color doesn't really matter. In other words, it can be equally sweet and tasty if it's green skin, just the same as if it's turned color like you can see here. And honestly, these were dark green just 2 or 3 days ago when I bought them at the store. Now you can see the color of the flesh, and I can smell its beautiful citrus scent. Now they're actually easy to peel, so that's one of the benefits of these. Kind of very unique ugly fruit. And so the rind comes off really easy. It's got a decent amount of pith. Now what's interesting about this is that it's very, very juicy. And when you peel them, I mean, some people eat them, as the citrus industry, they call this the rag, so the outer membrane. Some people chew the rag, but I don't. I actually prefer to peel it out or pull it off. Now maybe I'm spoiled because my favorite fruit is the SUMO citrus, and this part of the membrane just literally melts in your mouth, and that's what makes it so unique. But I do like this delicious, very juicy, and very unique fruit. You can see how easy it comes out of these little pouches and just how juicy this fruit is. Now, flavor-wise, it's more of a novelty fruit in my humble opinion. I mean, it's good. I like it. Tastes like a decent orange with a little bit of grapefruitness to it. So a little bit of that bitterness. Actually, I'll eat this whole thing. It's just this is the part that I don't like about it. Is that it's hard to dissolve in your mouth. All right, now I want to see the difference between one that's been chilled and one that hasn't. And for this one, it's not very easy to peel. There we go. Okay. Now, I would suggest that you would probably, I mean, you can enjoy these as a delicious, healthy snack, but I think they might be better in cooking. So they might elevate dishes, or maybe these can be added with other ingredients and combined to kind of elevate this fruit. But interesting color, and it does taste different when it's refrigerated. I like them both ways. I would probably say this one that's not refrigerated is a little sweeter. But the drawback is that this part is just not my favorite to eat. And it's so juicy sometimes it will spray in your eyeball like it just did there. To me. All right. So there you go. This is the ugly fruit. It does not have an ugly taste. Now what I really want to do is measure the sugar content. So let's use our Brix refractometer to measure the sample. Now I'll do both fruit just to see if there's a difference. I'm gonna guess this one on the right here was sweeter. Actually, I could probably just do this. It's so juicy. All right, let's measure the content. 8 2/10, which is a low score. SUMOs will get up into the 14, or I believe we had one go into the 16s this season. Let's see how this other fruit does. This is the refrigerated one, the cold one. And I wonder if citrus is like dragon fruit, where it's different sweetness depending on the part of the fruit. But I'm not sure. 8 9/10. Okay, so the refrigerated one is slightly sweeter. So yeah, in my humble opinion, my final evaluation of this beautiful citrus would be that it's an interesting fruit. I enjoy eating a few every season, but they are not my favorite tasting citrus. The profiles are basically that tastes like a decent orange with a really hard to chew, or it stays in your mouth, this outer membrane. But the benefits are that it's seedless, very juicy, and good for you. It's got a nice amount of vitamin C. Hi, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out the South Korean pear. This is just one of many different cultivars grown in South Korea. Specifically, this one is called the Butterscotch Pear, and it's trademarked. It's also distributed by Melissa's Produce. It's not cheap. I believe we paid $5.99 a pound in Southern California. And online chefs use it for slaws, salads, desserts, and more. Now it has this special packaging, as you can see here, because the skin is very delicate and it needs to be protected. Now I think that they call these butterscotch pears because of the color of these beautiful fruit. Now, if you expect that this is going to taste like a pear, you're going to be in for a surprise. In my opinion, they remind me most of a slightly sweeter jicama. And if you've had jicama before, that texture, it's more like an apple than a pear. So let's cut these open. I'll show you what they look like if you have it. So you can see here. Interesting seeds. They're not too large. And it's just a nice, delicate fruit with a really thin skin. So growers have to be really cognizant of how they protect these skin, the skin of these fruits, because you can see it's just so thin, my gosh. Now some people review these fruit and say they're not good at all. However, I believe it's mainly the taste of the skin. The skin has an interesting kind of, some describe it as a leathery texture and almost kind of a leathery flavor. It's not the best part. I mean, it's probably good for you. It's probably healthy. But the flesh is much more mild. And it just reminds me so much more of a jicama than a pear. Now, I am very curious to see the sugar content of this fruit. I read online it gets over 10, possibly into the 13s. So let's give it a whirl and see how sweet these are. Now I sampled both of these, and the one on the right is definitely sweeter in my experience and the ones I've tasted in the past. So let's go ahead and measure the sugar content of this specific fruit here. Now you can see they are nice and juicy, so it was not hard to get a sample. And it's 11 4/10 on our Brix refractometer, which is not bad. It's over 11% sugar. Now, I would not eat these mainly for the flavor. I think it's more about the crunch, the texture, the juice. Using it, like I said, in a slaw, you're gonna have excellent results. Some people like to eat them plain, like I do. And if you don't enjoy it in your first experience, I highly suggest you try just the flesh and not the skin. Because the flesh is the best part. Although, I kind of like the skin. It's definitely a different experience with and without the skin. So, there you go. The amazing Butterscotch Pear. Native or grown in South Korea commercially, exported around the world, and you can enjoy these fruit in the winter and into the spring. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Neopolitan Tangerines. Now the name is trademarked, I believe, by Melissa's Produce, and you can see they weigh in around 1/4 pound, and that's a larger size. According to Melissa's website, they're a brand new hybrid available in limited quantities from December to January, so a short window where you could purchase these. Now the drawback is they are slightly smaller, but they have big flavor, a high sugar content, they're mostly seedless, and they're very juicy. Now they can also be refrigerated. I've tried them both ways. I actually prefer to eat them refrigerated. Well, either way, they both taste great. Now they are pretty easy to peel. I'm still gonna use a knife just to make it easy today. So you can see they are really juicy. Look at that juice just squirt out. And I've had a few seeds. I've had a few pounds of these to taste them and make sure I enjoy them. And they do have a really sweet flavor. I prefer, honestly, a SUMO citrus is still my favorite citrus, but these are really enjoyable as well and relatively new. Nice and sweet, really pretty exterior, and the perfect size for a snack. Really good probably in a kid's lunch. Very rarely will you get a seed. Whoops, that was dangerous. And I do enjoy this fruit. Nice smell. And it's just a delicious, juicy tangerine if you like tangerines. This is probably my favorite tangerine I've had to date. And I do like its smaller size. You can just see how juicy they are and how easy they come apart. And they are a bit more on the mild flavor, so you don't get an intense citrus flavor in my opinion. It's very mellowed out. Okay, so let's see the sugar content of these beautiful fruit. I'm going to predict it's going to be around 10. It is 11 and 1/10. So nice and sweet. Great for if you like tangerine juice. These would be excellent to juice. And definitely the membranes are easily consumed and easy to chew. And just a delicious overall fruit. I highly recommend you try to find them. You're running out of time this season. Hopefully they'll be around more next season. Look for this bag. I saw them in 1-pound bags. Cost us about $3.50. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out these beautiful Cara Cara oranges. Now these are actually Kings River organic Cara Caras, and they're available from December to March. I found these at my local Sprouts. However, they are grown around the world now and grown conventionally. You can find these fruit, not organic, 11 months out of the year. According to the website, these are premium California citrus that are a low acid navel variety with a slight pink flesh tone, and they're described as being sweet, mild, and the flavors are orange, berry, and cherry. So this one's just about 3/4 of a pound. Let's give it a slice. You can see right off the bat, it's definitely not an orange color. It's a beautiful pink color. Now this has an interesting story in my opinion. Its parents, it's a Citrus sinensis, which is the same cultivar variety as a Washington navel. But in Venezuela, this was found and it was basically a mutant of the Washington navel. And I find that very interesting. So you can see that a Cara Cara will get a navel. And in other parts of the world, they call these Cara Cara, because in Spanish, that's how they pronounce it. So Cara Cara or Cara Cara. Now, either way, it's definitely a citrus that I recommend growing in. If you live in a climate where you could grow these, they actually grow well in containers, and they're a delicious, seedless, beautiful fruit that I just enjoy eating. So from what I read online, if you live in a harsher climate or an area where it gets quite cold, you could actually bring this plant inside and outside. So it will tolerate that and it will grow great in a container. Now I'm really curious to see the sugar content of these beautiful fruit, because they're not too sweet. I definitely get like a berry vibe with an orange mixed, and they're mildly sweet is how I describe it, the ones that I've eaten. And I've had them for a few years now. They've actually been around for some time. Let's see. And they're not quite as juicy as some of the other citrus, but they have plenty of juices. So 8 1/10. So I've had a SUMO this season that was double that. It was in the 16s. So generally that's on the lower side, and about 8% of this is sugar. You can see these are consistent. So not as sweet, let's say some of the mandarins and other sweeter varieties that get into the 12s or the teens, but that's okay. Because this is just such a unique citrus. You must try one, and now you can find them 11 months out of the year. So hunt some down and try a Cara Cara or Cara Cara, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Beautiful citrus. Again, they are related to navels, so you will sometimes find a navel on some of these beautiful citrus. Really like the scent, the flavor, everything about this fruit. You can use these in cooking, and they just enhance your dishes as well. So there you go. the Cara Cara orange, a beautiful mutant citrus. I'm glad that they are available and you can even grow these on your own. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Juicy Apples, exclusive to Star Ranch. And you can see here, they're around 1/3 of a pound. This is the largest one of the bunch that I purchased. Now you can see here from their website at Star Ranch Growers that they claim that it has a balance of sweet and tart, it's juicy, crunchy, flavorful, and it's available from October to April. It's also globally distributed. Now, this beautiful fruit is a cross of Rayburn and Honeycrisp. Now, it does have a thin skin, and it feels really dense for its size. So it's a dense apple, and it definitely has a nice crunch. And the texture ranges. This apple feels really smooth, and this one feels a little bit more rough. So let's go ahead, cut these open, and give them a taste. Now you can't see that thin skin as described. It's really, really delicious. It is really well balanced for an apple. Has a nice sweetness, and the tartness is on the mild side. Really, really crunchy. I really like this apple. Wow, I do like it. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely a very unique apple. I'm sure it's a multi-purpose type of fruit. You could use this for fresh fruit, cooked dishes, beverages, salads, and more. Now let's see how sweet these are. Let's use this Brix refractometer. Now I would also like to note is that there is a lot of variability. Look in just this bag. I would assume this apple was on the shady side of the tree. These ones are probably got more sun. Well, I would really like to have this in a salad. This would make a really, really good, like a Waldorf chicken salad. I would enjoy that. All right, let's go ahead. Let's see if we can get some sugar. Let's see how juicy these are. I have to use the blade of the knife probably. Really crispy. Not as juicy though as I thought. Huh. All right, let's see. I'm gonna give it the old squeeze. There we go. Wow, 13 6/10. So that's definitely a sweet apple. Really pretty skin. I believe these are growing in Washington. And now that they're trying to produce them annually, or year-round, I should say. So there's growing programs now in New Zealand for this apple, as well as Chile. So hopefully you'll get to see these in stores year-round. So there you go, the juicy apple. Delicious, dense, multi-purpose, absolutely great just by itself, or can elevate a dish at your home. I highly recommend putting these in salads. That's what I like to do. All right, give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks for your time. And hopefully you can find yourself a juicy apple and enjoy one of these delicious, healthy, beautiful fruits. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Organic California Raspberry Oranges from Kings River Packing. And you're looking at the website here. This name is trademarked, and it's described as a ruby-colored flesh with a hint of raspberry flavor, and it's more pleasing than a typical blood orange. Now, you could get these from December to June, and they even have some recipe ideas here on the bag, which I think is awesome. Now, you can see they weigh in around 1/4 of a pound or a little less. That's a larger size, and you can see the variability in what the fruit will look like. Now this one's gonna be really red like a traditional blood orange, and this one is gonna be a bit more unique looking. Now there are 20 types of blood oranges. I was researching them a little bit, and I cannot find out which variety or cultivar this one is. So some people said it could be a Moro. That's a bit more common, but I am not the expert on these types of blood oranges. So if you know, I'd love to hear in the comments. But what I do know is that I've eaten several of these and they're quite good. Now let's look at this one more first. This one that hasn't really changed color much. Now I did get some seeds in these so far, and they remind me of a navel to peel. So I just kind of get that navel vibe when I peel it. And then when they're not red on the outside, they're a bit more tart in the flavor, and they're really pretty. So I could see these being used on like a really decorative fruit dish. I think these would be stunning, especially if they're not quite ripe, or if you want it really red, I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. This one doesn't want to come apart. There is a seed there, so that's a good way to show you that there are seeds. But you can see there's just this beautiful little bit of red in there. I find that really cool. I'll take, for example, this one. Watch the contrast in color, as this one is more ripe. Wow, look at that. So in just one bag, you can get some variability in the fruit. Flavor-wise, let's see if these taste very different. Now they are definitely a bit more tart. And I do get seeds, but it really does taste like the name. I really get kind of a raspberry orange flavor from this fruit. So I'm glad that you can purchase these out there, and having them 6 months out of the year, that's a good thing. Well, let's see how sweet they really are. So we're going to use this Brix refractometer to measure the sugar content of these fruit. So that was distilled water, and now we're going to use some of the fruit juice. So 10 3/10, which is a respectable score. But that does kind of show that there is a bit of tartness to these. And let's try this one. 8 8/10. So if you're looking for a sweeter one, have one that's a darker skin and more red. That's going to most likely have more developed sugars, versus one that you saw was a bit picked a bit earlier. So that's another interesting benefit about these fruit, especially if you grow them yourself, is that the longer you keep them out there to develop this color, they'll be a bit more sweeter and have a slightly different flavor profile than something at this stage, which would be a bit more tart and sour. Really delicious orange. I really like this type of citrus, and I highly recommend it. I hope you could try one and find them in your local stores. I was able to find these at Sprouts, and they were on sale. So I believe they were only $1 or I think $2 a pound. So definitely a good value. Now the only drawback would be the seeds, and they are a little bit hard to peel. They're gonna get juice on your hands. So that could be one of the drawbacks of this delicious and interesting and really, really stunning fruit. As you can see, I just think that they look really cool. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Lady Alice apples from Cuyama Orchards, which is near Santa Barbara, California. And these are beautiful, organic, high-quality apples that I found at our local Jimbo's grocery store. And you can see these beautiful fruit, what they look like. I really like the striping ones. Some of them are striped. They can be 7 to 9 centimeters in diameter, and the skin can range golden yellow, and it can get pink and even red like red blushing. So you could see the variability here. Probably depending on how much sunlight each fruit gets. Now, this fruit is described as being sweet and tart, and it has a fairly balanced sugar and acid ratio. So let's cut this open and give it a shot. See the color of the flesh is a little bit, I guess, cream colored. Maybe, to me, it looks slightly yellow. Could be the lighting.
That one sounds snappier.
It's very crunchy.
Snappier.
Mildly sweet, tart. This is a high quality apple.
Yeah, I like this one.
Now, it's described online as being pineapple, vanilla, and almond scented or flavored. I'm not sure if I get that. I don't smell much of it. What do you think, Scott?
I don't smell anything.
To me, it's just a really perfectly dense apple with the right amount of sweetness. I don't know, I really like this apple. What's
it is good. It's got good skin texture, snappy. It's got a little tart, sweet. It's got like an extra sweet note, you know. It's like really hits you in the back end.
Yeah, I prefer this apple over most of the common varieties. Now, what's funny is that this is harvested in the fall, and this variety actually improves, the flavor improves with the storage, and it can be stored till spring.
Oh, wow.
Now, another interesting thing about this is that it came from a farmer who actually, the story goes that he sliced the tree with his plow, and the tree survived, and it actually was a red delicious tree. And the plow cut it, it survived, and it produced this unique fruit as a result. I guess it mutated.
Yeah, what's the science behind that?
I would call it a mutant. Now, if you haven't seen our other video on the crimson apple, these beautiful little crab apple hybrids are delicious, by the way. Please check out that video.
I think these are better, though.
I prefer this apple, for sure. Lady Alice apple, this is the best apple I've eaten this season, I would have to say, so far. I mean, listen to that crunch.
It's good.
Now, Lady Alice apples are named after Alice Zirkle of the Rainer Fruit Company, from what I read online.
It's copyright.
So there you go. I highly recommend, if you can find this apple, to try it out. It's got this extra sweet taste, flavor, a little bit acid, really smooth flesh, different color.
They say try serving this apple with nut butter, caramel, or chocolate.
Oh, this would make the best caramel apple, hands down. Just imagine that, Scott. I would love that.
Or they even recommend incorporating the fruits into hot sandwiches, such as paninis or grilled cheeses.
Oh man, you're making me hungry. Well, that is what we know about the Lady Alice apples. Very high quality, California grown organic apple. Hopefully you can try one and enjoy it yourself. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Lee Nova mandarins. You can see they weigh in about 1/3 of a pound, and they're also known as Superna or Supernova mandarins. And this is a cross of Lee crossed with Nova mandarins, and this was crossed back in the 1960s by Jack Hearn. You can see on this label here that these are Buck brand, and I found them at my local Jimbo's grocery store. So if you don't know much about these, they actually were hybridized from seedy parents, yet this fruit is almost seedless. You can see I already peeled this one, and that's one of the benefits, is that they're actually pretty easy to peel. And they're very juicy, and they're very flavorful, and they have little rag, so the membrane is easy to chew, digest, or consume, I should say. And it's also early season fruit. So many benefits for this type of mandarin. And if you like sweet citrus, mandarins are the way to go. They're hard to beat. Now, this cultivar was shared to the UC Riverside rather recently. You can see here it was officially released back in 2019. And it can get a top knot, like a SUMO citrus, and it will Brix in the 13s up to 16, which is quite sweet for a citrus. So this was hybridized actually in Florida, so it comes from Florida. And they do really well when grown in Southern California and into the Central Valley. So I expect to see more of these in grocery stores in the future. I found this at a high-end grocery store. So let's give this one a taste and see how it is. You can see they're really easy to peel. What's different than my favorite citrus, the SUMO, is that they're a little bit softer and way more juicy with less pulp. And they're very sweet. Not as much acid as a SUMO, which to me is still my favorite citrus, but these are a close second. Really, really juicy, really pleasant, really easy to peel. I've not had any seeds in the half dozen fruit I've eaten so far. So, as long as there's no cross-pollination, these should be just about seedless. Now let's see how sweet this fruit is. Let's measure its sugar content. All right. Should not be hard to get juice out of this, as you can see. $13 on the dot. Now let's try this other fruit, just to see how consistent these are. Ooh, got me in the eye. Zero tartness too, by the way. It's just a big, sweet, lovely fruit. So this one's 12. So there you go. They'll get it even sweeter, and I hope you can try a Lee Nova mandarin. I definitely would like to buy a tree and grow this. I know that they often grow them on semi-dwarf rootstocks. Definitely, this is my favorite mandarin. Oh, wow. Really enjoy it. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Poppies, California Mandarins by Kings River Packing. Now you can see that the blue ones, which are conventional, are available year-round according to their website, and the green ones I found here are available from December to April. Now, their benefits or their marketing ploy is that they are seedless, sweet, and easy to peel. Now, I am not sure what the specific variety is. I know that they're small, and I also know that they are probably not the same mandarin as, say, a cutie. You can see here the difference. So, poppy versus cutie. So let's go ahead and have a poppy and see how it is. Now, I do like the size, especially if you have younger children. And what we do is we usually send these to school either peeled or let the kids peel. Now they are a little juicy, so you do get some of that juice on your hand. But if you're really careful, you can avoid that. Now I do like that they're seedless. They have a great aroma. I can smell them from here. And man, they are really sweet. Wow. Really, really sweet. Now, I hypothesize that they may use different mandarins depending on what time of year or what they can get sourced, but I could be wrong. Maybe they always use the same mandarin, but you can see that it's definitely not the same type of mandarin as a cutie. I'm going to compare them really quick and see which one I think tastes better of these two. They're definitely different. The Poppy's sweeter in my opinion, but the Cutie has a nice sweetness, but then some acidity. So, I respect them both as different cultivars. But of the two here in front of me, I like the Poppy a little bit more. But I also like sweet. So, let's measure the sugar content to get a better understanding of just how sweet the Poppies are. These organic poppies grown in California. Now, I found mine at local Sprouts, but I haven't seen them again. So hopefully I will find some more because I do like these a lot. And then it's 14 1/10, which is pretty darn sweet. It's up there with the SUMO sweetness. Now the SUMO is still my favorite, hands down. And just for curiosity's sake, let's see how a Cutie does. So less sweet. And I could taste slightly less sweetness, but this one has a little bit more dynamic than this one, which is just more on the sweet side. But again, of the two, I enjoy them both. Maybe I'll try them together. Let's see how that works. Very pleasant. So these are Poppy mandarins, as you can see. Very small, delicious, seedless snack, and a lovely citrus. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Crimson Gold Apples. They're organic, and they're from Cuyama Orchards, which is out in Santa Barbara. So I'm really excited to taste these again. I've had a few, and they are a larger crabapple, and they're actually a hybrid cultivar. They have this kind of unique shape, a smooth skin, shiny, and then they have some brown freckles on them. Now, what's amazing is that these crab apples tend to be tart, but this hybrid created by Albert Eder back in the 1930s, and then it was released in the 50s, and then he passed away. But he created this really sweet-colored, firm, delicious fruit. Now, it has a high sugar content and acidity. It's known to be balanced and bright, like a sweet tart or a fruity spice, and it's excellent in pastries and cooking. Tastes like a really sweet honey crisp is kind of how I would describe it, but with a smoother, finer texture of the delicate, sweet fruit. Absolutely stunning. I need to try some of these in some food or some pastries like it says. Just a delicious apple. Scott, come and try one of these. It's a Crimson Gold apple. Well, you could actually take a whole one and bite it. And I believe this was brought to us by Specialty Produce, and I found these at our local Jimbo's, which is a higher end grocery store.
Yeah, they're good. They're good flavor. They're a little mealy though. Like I got a little like, not real like crispy, or
like smooth,
but good flavor. Why are they so tiny?
Well, they actually can get 4 to 5 centimeters in diameter, but the texture of them is, yeah, I call it smooth. What did you describe it as?
A little mealy. I don't
Mealy.
know. That's how I kind of.
Oh, I believe you dissect them. I do have small seeds in the center.
I like the flavor profile though.
Oh, it's absolutely delicious. I'm just enamored with this variety. I'd love to try to grow some myself.
No, I think like a pear is a little more mealy. It's like you don't get that crisp kind of crunchiness. It's just, but.
Well, what actually happened is this is very rare and it was almost lost due to mistaken identity. And you can find the story online. I'll put it in the description. But basically what happened is that the wrong variety, kind of like dragon fruit, was spread around And it was not this sweet, delicious fruit. It was much more tart. And then someone purchased Albert Eder, or possibly Eater, E-T-T-E-R, his property, and they found it in the 70s off of a multi-grafted tree and revived this variety, this cultivar. Yeah? So it was almost lost for about 30 years, and I love the history of plants and fruit. So this again was created by Albert Eder, or E-T-T-E-R, in the 30s, and he passed away in the 50s right after it was released.
What do you mean, like the tree had multiple types of apples grafted to?
Oh, so basically the wrong one was distributed to the nurseries, and it was a subpar fruit and tart. And then someone found or purchased his property and found one tree multi-grafted with the old label. And then, thanks for asking that question, Scott, because in Albert's notes, he actually wrote that this fruit does not break down when boiled. And so they compared the one that was mislabeled with the actual cultivar variety that created by Albert, and this one did not break down when boiled, and it actually just stays in a unique state, and it's just a different, unique flavor. You can see how sweet they are.
Yeah, it was really sugary. Are you gonna Brix it?
Yeah, let's take a Brix meter and see the sugar content.
What do you guessing the Brix is gonna be?
I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say like a 14, maybe 13. We'll see.
Apples are kind of.
What do you think? What's your prediction, Scott?
Apples are usually kind of low, aren't they?
They are, but I've had some in, I think, 12.
Yeah, I guess 12.
13 and 5/10.
There you go.
So there you go. The delicious.
I would think the apples would be sweeter, but I mean, on the Brix, I don't know.
That's still a respectable score.
It is, but I
Not as sweet as dragon fruit.
Yeah, dragon fruit's definitely sweeter.
But thank you, Kuyama Orchards, for growing this amazing variety and allowing me to purchase it. Hey, this is Paul. Thanks for checking out Cuties. They are delicious, seedless California mandarins that you can find just about anywhere. They weigh about 1/1600 of a pound. You get about 3 for every half pound, so about 6 per pound. Now, we find these 3-pound bags at our local grocery store, and in my opinion, they're a good price and easy to find, nice, beautiful looking fruit, and seedless is the #1 thing for me. And they're easy to peel. Now, according to Sun Pacific's website, which I assume trademarked Cuties, you can see that they have this really cool graphic that explains why they're able to have these year-round, or just about year-round. I like that they don't try to hide that they're different mandarins, and these will be very similar. They'll always be seedless, but they're going to have different sizes and slightly different flavors, in my opinion. They'll be easy to peel. Now, some of these cultivars do contain seeds, but in this case, they use netting to prevent the bees, as you can see here, from cross-pollinating these flowers, which eventually become these beautiful fruit that you see here. Now, Cuties are bigger than Poppies. This is a poppy mandarin. You can see it's smaller. And we compared these in a recent video. Hopefully you can check that out. And we'll put a link in the description. But they're both good. I think these are slightly less sweet, but they have a better balance of acidity and sweetness. So let's go ahead and pop one open and give it a shot. Now, this is a really good size, especially for children. And you'll see Cuties for sale, and they'll be in Happy Meals or different meals at fast food chains. I've seen them at Disneyland in meal deals. So they're just about everywhere. I'm very consistent. I'm guessing this is the Murcott, but I'm not sure 100%. But if I had to guess, that's what my guess would be. I do like Murcotts. Let's see how consistent they are. Is this one going to be just as sweet? That nice mix of sweetness and acidity. Yes. I would say this one's a little bit better. You know, the outer membrane is not bad. Easy to chew. These strings are easy to pop off. You can see how easy it was to peel. All of these are good. Look at my hands are all dry. so you can eat these on the go without making a mess. Well, let's see how sweet this is. And that was distilled water to make sure it's accurate. And 12 9/10. Very respectable score. Very popular fruit, I can see why. Has many benefits. The size is nice, the price is nice. They're widely available. Unlike something like this, which is 3/4 mandarin, if I recall. This is a SUMO citrus. This is a nice size too. I like this size when I like a citrus, but I can easily eat 2 of these. But this is still my favorite fruit. But harder to find, more expensive, harder to grow. Hopefully you've seen our video where we toured the farm and learned how they grow these amazing Chernui decopons, which if they're good enough, they get the SUMO citrus name. So there you go. That is a little bit about the cutie mandarins, a delicious mandarin. So many beautiful citrus are in season right now. The poppy, the SUMO, these beautiful mandarins. So hopefully you can enjoy some. This is Paul. Thanks for checking out Kanzi Apples. You can see they weigh in at about 44 hundredths of a pound, so just under half a pound. And hopefully you've seen this packaging here. Now, they taste as advertised, and this flavorgram, I'll put a link in the description, is a great way to see kind of how apples can be described flavor-wise. So really cool. Now, you can see here on their website, they do describe a balance of sweet and tart and describe the apple as being very crunchy. Now, according to Specialty Produce, their website, they say that this is a classic example of an apple on the exterior, and it's firm, white inside, fragrant, and the flesh is both fragrant and crunchy. Now, this is a Gala crossed with a Braeburn, which are 2 really good apples in my humble opinion. And you can see the resemblance on these beautiful fruit. Now, both of those varieties came from New Zealand. And believe it or not, Kanzi means happy treasure in Swahili. So these are the apples just called happy treasure. Now, this is also an excellent apple for cooking and for desserts. It's very dense, I will say. It feels very dense. And look at that beautiful, beautiful flesh of this beautiful apple. And the crunch, wow. Now, this was bred as a dessert apple. So that was the goal in mind when they created this beautiful hybrid. And it's probably one of my favorite apples, especially because I like that balance of sweet and tart. It's very refreshing, very juicy. So let's see how sweet it is. Wow, I really enjoy this apple. Especially if you like dense apples, this apple is going to be the one for you. It's very dense and juicy. I like how it's not dry. Let's see if we could get some juice in here. There we go. A little messy. Wow, 15% of this apple, or that sample, is sugar. That is a sweet apple, wow. Just really enjoyable. And they're not very expensive, so if you see them, we got these at our local Sprouts or our local Trader Joe's. I've seen them at both stores. And they're a fair price, and they're just a delicious, delicious apple. So hopefully you can find yourself a beautiful Kanzi apple, dessert apple. It's beautiful, it's sweet, it's tart, it's balanced, it's dense, it's enjoyable, it's a great apple. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Oro Blanco, also known as Sweetie. Now, Oro Blanco means white gold in Spanish, and it's used to highlight the lighter colored yellowish white flesh of the inside of this fruit. This one specifically is weighing in at a little over 86 hundredths of a pound. So they can get about a pound or a little bit more. And they're a very smooth skin fruit, as you can see. They have small pores as well. Now, this is a cross between a pomelo and a white grapefruit, and one of the benefits about it is that it's seedless and it's less acidic than a typical grapefruit. Now, this was patented by the UC Riverside Citrus Research Station, and it was actually, from what I read online, a 9-year project that started all the way back in 1958, and then these fruits were released in the 80s, so around 1980. And I heard an interesting story that actually these are really popular in Japan. However, they kind of got killed in the market because the packers mixed more than one type of fruit, and so the consumers were not happy. So this unique citrus actually had quite a following, and a lot of people liked it, but then it just kind of died because of that mistake. So you can see it has a lot of smooth pith. Look at that, it's really thick. And the exterior you saw was round and ovate, and it's very smooth, glassy, and the color of the flesh, you can see why they call it Oro Blanco. So let's give it a taste and see what I think about it. Membranes are a little bit chewy, I guess you could say. So you actually probably be best off just cutting using a grapefruit knife. And these are really good to enjoy during breakfast, or lots of people actually juice them. Now the flavor is interesting. It's like a really enjoyable grapefruit in my opinion, but without the bitterness. It's actually my favorite fruit that I would put in the grapefruit family, if that makes sense. Now, let me try one more, see which one's sweeter so we can get a sample of the sugar content in this fruit. Now, believe it or not, Oro Blancos are grown all throughout the world. In California, Florida, Australia, Israel, and Japan, just to name a few places. But again, you can see that the drawback is there's a whole lot of that pith. All right, let's see which one's sweeter. But look at that beautiful juice, beautiful colored flesh. Oh, that one's even better. Okay, so let's measure the sugar content. Oops, wrong device. Here we go. And let's see how sweet it is. Well, the sweetest citrus I've had to date is the SUMO citrus, and that bricksed at, I believe, 14 and into the 16s. All right. See how this one does? 11 and 9/10. Quite respectable. And just for kicks, let's see how this one does. 12, pretty consistent. So there you go, Oro Blanco, just a delicious citrus. I highly recommend growing one if you have some space in California. These plants just do really well, and you'll be rewarded with the beautiful fruit from December till around March. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Hunnyz the Apple. Now this is a delicious bicolor apple, and it's a cross of Crimson Crisp and Honey Crisp. And it's a newer apple. As you can see, the website has some great information. And I highly suggest you try this apple, so look for this label. It's a cool label. I like it. Some of them even have a honey pot. Now you can see it's weighing in at over half a pound, so it's a large, nice size apples, I should say. And I like the bicolor aspect of it. It's a really pretty fruit. and the skin feels kind of soft, if that makes any sense. I like how it feels. It's kind of smooth and soft. So let's cut into one and show you. Thin skin, nice, slightly off-white to cream-colored flesh. And really delicious. This is probably my favorite apple I've tried so far. Wow, really good. So gee whiz, they say that it's known for its incredible taste and these just wonderful attributes of a mix of sweet and tart. So sweetness and acid is really nice on this apple. This would be really good in fruit salads. I could see this being used many different ways. I bet it would make a phenomenal apple pie. Really nice flavors. I even like the taste of the skin. So let's see how sweet it is. I really enjoy eating all these new apples. It's great to see them in stores. And hopefully you can enjoy some of them. But this one I really like. There we go. So 14 4/10. I suspect it can be even higher. See if this one tastes a little sweeter. This one tastes a little sweeter. Let's see. I could be wrong. Very consistent. Look at that. 14 4/10. So look for these in stores. Give them a shot. Hunnyz Apple. Again, it's a Crimson Crisp crossed with the famous and delicious Honey Crisp. And I think this one has improved over the parent plants. So give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day. Take care.